I've been asked to take a little poll. How many of you heard about this tonight from the announcement in the newspaper? From our Facebook page. Raise your hands high, please. Wonderful. From my email. From a church bulletin. Okay, and what would another source be?
Cinema Center ad.
Oh my gosh, we're paying for that. Yeah, the Cinema Center ad. Okay.
Yeah, we paid for
that. That should
that.
be the first one. Good. Well, welcome to you all. You know, we have some just simple treats tonight. We wanted to keep this as simple as possible. We have some olive oil for sale. That helps our friends in Ramallah and in the West Bank in Palestine. So you can check with the folks over there as well. You know, I'm going to get started in just a second, but just to introduce us tonight, there are certain times in your life, I'm in my 60s now, and there are certain times where you decide to make a pilgrimage to a particular place at a particular time. I've done that 3 different times in my life. One was to a little town in northern Israel called Ibilin, where I met one of my real heroes, our father at that time, but now Archbishop Elias Shakur. And I spent some time with Abuna Shakur there, and I've been back to Ibilin now about 8 or 9 or 10 times. In fact, I was on his board here in the U.S. for a number of years. Another place was on the island of Crete, right outside of Heraklion, up on the hillside, the tomb of Nikos Kazantzakis, who wrote Zorba the Greek and The Last Temptation of Christ. I've been to his tomb. He's buried outside of Heraklion on a hilltop overlooking the bay because he was excommunicated from the Greek Orthodox Church for writing Last Temptation of Christ, and so he couldn't be buried in an Orthodox cemetery. So I've been there 3 times to Kazantzakis' tomb. And then my third pilgrimage, and I'll tell you a little bit about that tonight, was an overnight train ride from Istanbul to Konya and the tomb of Mevlana Rumi. Jalal Rumi. And so I'll show you a couple pictures at the beginning of the Mevlana Turbesi, the tomb of Rumi. And I've been there 3 times as well in my various travels over the years. So this is not just some sort of academic talk by some egghead wannabe. You know, this strikes near and dear to my heart. And I'm just really glad that you're here. I thought, you know, what a good time of the year to just well, forgive me if I offend anyone, but particularly what's been happening in our country over the last number of weeks and the kinds of moods I've been in, that this is a good time to just pause and reflect and to center myself. And so I couldn't think of a better way to do that than to reflect a little bit on Rumi's life and his work and his poetry. So thank you for being here as part of that journey with me tonight. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that I operate this mouse correctly. I mean, even the mouse is advanced technology for me. So welcome tonight. The name of the talk, Lauren will go. The name of the talk is In the Arms of the Beloved, Reflections on the Life and Work of Jalaluddin Rumi. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, come. This is not a caravan of despair. I love that. It does not matter if you've broken your vow 1,000 times, still come. And once again I say, come. It was a clear, rather brisk night in 2011. Central southern Turkey, the ancient city of Konya, biblical Iconium. So Konya is in the Bible, in the New Testament, which according to the writings there, Paul traveled on his journeys. I had taken the overnight train from Istanbul, where I was spending time with the Mevlevi Order of Dervishes. I have some friends who are part of that order. Like so many other pilgrims, I'd come to Konya, to the burial place of a man born in present-day Afghanistan. He's an Afghan refugee. Almost 800 years earlier, a poor monk, a scholar, a poet, a singer of songs, Mevlana Rumi. Every December 17th, and so this is a good time of the year to have a talk like this. Every December the 17th, there's a great celebration in Konya. They're called Rumi Days, from the 12th to the 17th. The anniversary of Rumi's death. What he had begun to call in the days leading up to his death, his wedding day. The day when he would finally, completely become one with his beloved. I'd spent the evening with the dervishes there, and now after midnight I sat on a wooden bench under the illuminated and round-ribbed cupola over his tomb. The cupola is bright turquoise, the color named as such from the minerals brought to Europe from the Turks, Turkey, turquoise. I sat on the same bench every time I'm in Konya. Every time I'm there. There's this little park right outside, and it's a beautiful place to sit. I sat with a Muslim rosary around my neck, around my wrist, with the 99 knots for the 99 names of God. And here's one of the poems I read from a book of Rumi's poetry. Flames dance with love. Oh, beloved, be like that to me. My candle burns with longing. It cries with tears of wax. Like the wick of a melting candle. Oh, beloved, be like that to me. The moon kisses the stars. The madness of that dark night. I know lovers' insomnia. Oh, beloved, be like that to me. Each time your love touches me, poet's words cannot hold the spell your eyelashes cast upon my heart. Well, I saw the moon kiss the stars that night. It was a time that the universe opened up to me in a way like never before. Jalaluddin Rumi, known by his disciples as Mevlana, our master, was the inspiration behind the Sufi order known as the Mevlevis. We in the West know them as the whirling dervishes, from their signature turning dance. According to the American Booksellers Association, Rumi has been the best-selling poet in the United States in the last 2 decades. By the way, more than Shakespeare. His Masnavi, his teaching material arranged in 26,000 couplets, is often called the Quran in Persian. Rumi was born on September 30th, 1207. Jalaluddin means the glory of the faith. In what is present-day Afghanistan, his father was a famous Muslim theologian and teacher, Orthodox Muslim theologian and teacher. However, in 1219, fearing the Mongol invaders, Rumi's father quickly packed up his family and fled, first to perform the Hajj in Mecca, then headed north through Iran into Asia Minor and present-day Turkey. They continued on and settled in Konya in south-central Turkey. The local emir was so thrilled to have them that he enticed his father to stay by building him his own university. The young Jalal married and they had 2 sons, but his wife died when the boys were still very little. When his father died in 1228, Rumi had already become a Quranic scholar and well-versed in the mystical tariqah, the Sufi way, the Islamic way. And he replaced his dad at the university, became a highly respected teacher of the law and a teacher of religion in his own right. And if nothing else had happened, he would have been remembered as one of the great theologians of the period of Islamic history. But in late October, early November of 1244, something happened that would change his life, and indeed the course of Islamic thought forever. He met a wandering holy man about 60 years old by the name of Shams at-Tabriz. The name Shams means the sun. There are many variations of their first meeting, but the result was they went off together, Rumi abandoning his students, locked themselves in a room, the two of them, at the university together for 90 days in deep spiritual communion with each other. After this, nothing was the same again. They spent only 16 months together, but Rumi would describe their meeting as an encounter with the love of God using a variety of images. He was, he said, the moon revolving around Shams, the sun. He had been, quote, intoxicated with the wine of divine love. Remember, alcohol is forbidden in Islam. He was intoxicated by the wine of divine love. He said, love was the flame that burned away everything, only God remained. He said, when I am with you, we stay up all night. When you're not here, I can't go to sleep. Praise God for these two insomnias and the difference between them. Or my favorite, before I was raw, then I got cooked, now I'm burnt. Only the annihilation of the ego, it's called fana in Arabic, fana. Only the annihilation of the ego brings about baka, union with the beloved.
You're one behind on the slide.
No, I think I'm okay.
Oh, okay.
Fana, baka. Twins on the altar of love, he calls them. Worth every risk, every sorrow, every longing, every sacrifice. Shams taught Rumi that God was to be found not externally in religion as institution, religion as law, religion as ritual, religion as doctrine, but within one's own heart. The heart as the true religion. I looked upon every cross and every church, yet God was not there. I went to the temples of India and the shrines of China, yet God was not there. I visited the Kaaba in Mecca and Jerusalem's holy places, yet God was not there. I journeyed to pilgrimage sites, performed sacred rites, read books of wisdom, but God's wisdom was beyond human words. I searched the peaks of holy mountains, the stillness of desert caves, the darkness of deep waters, constellations in the night sky, but God was not there. Then I looked within my own heart, and there I found God. Love was nowhere else. Or another way, listen for how he places human beings in the context of the natural world. Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, Zoroastrian, stone, ground, mountain, river. Each one has a secret way of being with the mystery, unique and not to be judged. Or, I love this one. Not Christian, nor Jew, nor Muslim, not Hindu, not Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or culture. I'm not from the east or from the west. I'm not from the ocean, nor have I sprung up from the ground. I'm not natural. I'm not ethereal. I'm not composed from elements at all. I do not exist as an entity of this world, or past worlds, or even worlds to come. I belong to the beloved. I have seen two worlds, two hearts become one. And it is to that one I cry out, that one I know. First, last, outer, inner, only that one breath breathing into me, I am a human being. Mevlana's students became increasingly jealous because Rumi was ditching them for Shams. And their animus caused Shams to flee to Damascus. Rumi implored him to return. Still, the jealousy for Shams continued, and in 1247, he was secretly murdered by Rumi's students. Rumi assumed Shams had merely disappeared. They kept the murder secret from him. So he would ask travelers if they had seen him. He himself searched for him, waiting for him to return. In his despair, he went into seclusion, wouldn't eat. He became thin, faint, cried out in guttural sounds not understandable to the human ear. And other times, he cried out in verse, like these words from the opening verse of his famous series of teaching stories, the Mevlevi. And I said it's called the Quran in Persian. This opening set of verses from the Mevlevi is the reed flute's song. Listen to the story told by the reed. It tells of the pain of separation. Since I was cut from my reed bed, I make this sweet, crying sound. Anyone who is apart from the one she loves understands why I cry. It is the hollowness of the reed that makes the sweetest note. Wouldst thou learn how lovers bleed? Hearken, hearken to the reed. So the reed flute and the sounds that you hear, it's called the ney in Turkey. The sounds that you hear from the reed flute is the sweet sighing of the reed longing to return to the reed bed, and it symbolizes the human soul longing to return to God, from which the soul was originally connected and now has been plucked, just like the reed. Out of his separation, words flowed from the longing of Rumi's heart, his own sweet crying sound. My heart is a pen in the beloved's fingers. Or, I am a scrap of iron, the beloved a magnet that draws me near. I am a ruby held up to the sunrise. Now the entire world is red. My heart is a rose longing for pollination by the nightingale. Always another death to die beyond the death you know. Always another door of scars open to another room. Or, you are the light, I am the moon. Or, I love this, dissolver of sugar, dissolve me. And my favorite, I slept well last night, but woke up with the taste of wine on my breath. I must have dreamt of you. On the 17th of December, 1273, so you know what I'll be doing on Saturday. I'll be remembering our friend Jalal. On the 17th of December 1273, Mevlana's long-awaited wedding night arrived. People from every race and religion crowded the streets, passing his coffin one to the other to his tomb next to his father's. In other words, they passed it one to the other in a long parade over their heads. The tiles of the walls where he's buried, this is inside now, the Mevlana Turbesi in Konya, spell out the 99 names of God, and draped over his wooden sarcophagus is a large green cloth. At the head rests a large sikhe. The sikhe is the turban. And on each side in gold thread it reads, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. And by the way, for Muslims, but particularly for Sufis, La ilaha illallah doesn't just mean there is no other God but God. It really comes to mean there is nothing but God. After union with the beloved, all that's left is the beloved. La ilaha illallah. All that's left is the love. One, always one, only one. During his last illness, he wrote this poem with evolutionary imagery. I died as a mineral and became a plant. I died as a plant and rose to animal. I died as an animal and I became a human being. Why should I be afraid of death? When did I ever become less by dying? And I shall once more from being human soar with the blessed angels. But even from there I must pass on. Because when I have died as an angel, I shall become what no mind has e'er conceived. Oh, let me not exist. By dying, I will proclaim in the loudest of cries, to you I shall return. I am no one but you. And again, on that final day, when I am lowered into the ground, do not say, farewell, farewell, for the grave is just a veil covering the splendor of paradise. What harm ever came to the setting of the moon? What appears to you as a setting is for me a rising. What appears to you as a prison is for my soul a garden of delight. Every seed that enters into the earth will grow. Should it be any different for a human seed? Every bucket lowered into the well comes up full. Should I complain when instead of water, I pull up love itself? Well, two more things before I close and I give you a chance to share with each other. First, a word about the whirling dervishes. And second, since this is for Christians, the Advent season, I want to say a word about Rumi and Jesus. So first, the Quran says that, quote, wherever you turn, you find the face of God. But the turning dance called the sema, S-E-M-A, which means the hearing, began in 9th century Baghdad, 3 centuries before Rumi, as Sufis gathered for prayer and with music, and they enter into ecstatic states of devotion. There are many roads which lead to God, Rumi said. I chose the one of dancing. Jane, I was thinking of you when I made this slide. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on you, but I thought of you. The holy hokey pokey. I'm sorry to pick on it.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. I chose the one of dancing. And he wrote in ecstasy, dance, O lovers, the sun is love. The lover, a particle circling the sun. Remember, Shams, the sun. O daylight, rise, atoms are dancing. Like madmen, we dance toward the one. The lovers of God dance. Well, people thought he lost his mind. But what happened was that through his grief missing Shams, Healing came from within himself. And through dance, he was able to channel it, to give it expression, to manifest the grieving. Death to life. Annihilation to bliss. Matter into spirit. Once a dervish was asked rather impertinently, turning and turning and turning, round and round you go in circles, all that energy and you don't even get anywhere. And the dervish responded, what if you're already there? The dervishes are called sema, the ones who dance the sema. And they dance it in 4 sets of turning, discipline and surrender to the haunting music of the kettle drums, the sound of the final judgment, and stringed instruments. And of course, the ney, the reed flute, is the sound of our souls longing to return home. The Semazen shed their white cloaks first, burial shrouds, then their black robes of death, and finally whirl in white robes of the resurrection. Their ck, their fezzes, are symbolic of tombstones and remind them of the seduction of darkness and death. Like the crescent moon, the symbol of Islam, sheds its darkness every month to become full again in the lunar cycle. A monthly reminder for Muslims of death and resurrection. Rumi says, the whirling sea belongs to you and you belong to the whirling. Ordinary people dance when they're happy. God's people dance in their own blood. The right palm open toward heaven, gathering divine grace. The left palm turned downward to give grace, to share grace, the same divine grace with the earth. And it crosses at the point, where does it go? It comes from here, through here, here. It crosses at the path of the heart. And the heart, in this imagery at least, the heart does not hold it or keep it, but lets it pass through it completely. Yet nevertheless, the heart is warmed by the divine love that comes from God and which you share with the earth. The dervishes will tell you that they do not enter into a trance, but it's through intense focus and discipline and intention they turn in circles. They mimic planets revolving around the light of the sun. Remember, Shams, the sun. Like the earth revolving around the sun, but also rotating on its own axis. So there are 2 sets of circles happening here, right? They're revolving around the sun, but they're also rotating on their own axis. The dervishes do too, just like the planets. Turning, 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 the restless souls of lovers, they revolve like planets around the sun, around the light of their beloved. Yet they also rotate too around the axis of their own hearts. Remember, fana, the goal. Fana, the annihilation of the ego. Bacha, the union with the beloved. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Only the beloved. Only the love. Dance when you're broken open. Dance if you've torn your bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your own blood. Dance when you're perfectly free. The sema. And second, because we're in the Advent season, what did Rumi think of Jesus? Well, in addition to the traditional ones, some of the titles that he uses for Jesus are the Beloved, Divine Light, Healer, the Remedy. Hey, buddy. Good to see you, Tony. Hey, it's great to have you here. Beloved, Divine Light, Healer, the Remedy, the Key, Infinite Son, the Color of God, the Dawn Breeze. Rumi agrees with the Islamic tradition that Jesus came from God to, quote, enter into the circle of human beings, to revive the dead, to, quote, heal, to open the eyes of those who were blind. Jesus restores people's lives like those of the first man and woman through breathing into them the breath of life, the breath that he believes God breathed into the entire cosmos. Rumi, beyond religion and beyond clan, yours the reviving breath of Christ. Don't even breathe of leaving me. Behold, I saw a whole universe, each particle possessing Jesus' breath. Jesus prepares a banquet for those who understand themselves as poor, as in need, that is, all of us. The first verse of one of Rumi's poems is placed over the doorways of most churches in Iran. Most churches have one of Rumi's poems placed over their church doors. O afflicted one, stay here at this door. From everywhere people have come, the blind, the lame, the afflicted. They come at dawn to the door of the house of Jesus. But even more mystical, he knows of Mary's role as the vessel through which Christ comes into the world. But even more than a vessel, Mary is. She gave him insight into what it means to become a human being. There are lots of beings out in the world, but what does it mean to be a human being? Mary gives him insight. Each of us is Mary, he says. Each of us is Mary with a Jesus, the heart of God, waiting to be born. Each of us is a Mary with a Jesus in us waiting to be born. But because we run from the birth pangs, well, let Rumi describe what happens. The body is like Mary. Each of us has a Jesus. But so long as no pain appears, our Jesus will not be born. If pain never comes, our Jesus goes back to his place of origin on the same secret path he had come, and we remain deprived of his presence. And not only us, but nature too. Spring is Christ, raising dead plants from their shrouds. A leaf trembles. I tremble in the beauty of the wind. The wind is the Spirit. The rustling trees are Mary.